Hi, I'm Helen Bauer, and this is the Heart of Hospice podcast. The Heart of Hospice podcast is your source for compassionate and informative discussions about hospice and end-of-life care. I'm a certified hospice and palliative care nurse with over 15 years of experience. Whether you're a caregiver, someone with a serious illness, or you simply need to know more about hospice care, this podcast is for you. Join me as we explore all the aspects of hospice, from the details of caregiving to the emotional and spiritual dimensions of end-of-life journeys. For more resources and to connect with me, visit theheartofhospice.com and find us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Keep listening for today's episode.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
This episode is being sponsored by Halo Care. Whether you're supporting an aging parent or planning for your own independence, Halo Care empowers you to live confidently at home. From personal care and home safety to meaningful social connection, Halo Care gives you peace of mind knowing someone's always there. Learn more at halocaregroup.com/USA or check the show notes for the link. Halo Care, where technology meets compassion and home feels like home. This episode is sponsored by Hospice Navigation Services. When you need information about hospice, Hospice Navigation Services is here to help. An expert navigator will answer your questions about end-of-life care and give you the tools to feel confident in your decisions. A hospice navigation session is a great way to troubleshoot your current hospice care. It's your journey. We can be your guide. Visit hospicenavigation.com to schedule your hospice navigation session today.
Hospice nurse and end-of-life doula Trish Rux is here for a conversation about caregivers, the work of an end-of-life doula, and how getting help with small caregiving tasks goes a long way. Trish Rux is an end-of-life doula, an educator, and a registered nurse with inpatient hospice experience. Her background is rich in the study of death and dying and the practical knowledge that comes from being at the bedside of hundreds of dying people. Trish is one of the co-authors of Dying Matters, 8 Conversations That Can Change Your Life, and she currently serves as faculty with the Conscious Dying Collective. She says she's been curious about death from an early age and found a gift in herself in being able to talk about death with people. Her work at the bedside of the dying is shaped by her faith, her Buddhist practices, and her years in nursing that gave her practical learning and experience with the ill and dying. Trish truly believes that facing one's own death will help one to live more fully. You can connect with Trish and see her work in the Death Doula Collective at deathdoulas.com. Trish and I discuss one of the questions caregivers ask the most, and of course, it's related to time. Caregivers don't often ask for help with the little things, Trish says. Things like asking for help picking up prescriptions or walking the dog are things that often get overlooked. She offers a comprehensive description of the work of a death doula or an end-of-life doula and all the different ways they can support patients and caregivers. Trish emphasizes how hospice and death doulas can cooperate in the care of a patient. It's not an either-or. It's definitely a both-and. We also talk about the different types of advanced care plans that people should create, so much more than just a DNR and a medical power of attorney. Trish sees working with the dying as a sacred calling. So enjoy this conversation. There's a lot to learn. Trish, welcome to the Heart of Hospice podcast. It's great to have you with me.
Well, thank you, Helen. Thanks for having me.
I'm looking forward to this because I've got a kindred spirit. You and I connected immediately. Our work is very, very similar as a hospice nurse. And of course, now you are also an end-of-life doula. So I'm excited. So I like to start with an icebreaker question that I don't share with my guests ahead of time. So I'm pulling a card from the end-of-life deck, which you're already nodding. You've heard of it. It's the sister deck that goes with the death deck. And this is actually for end-of-life workers. It's for the more serious, respectful conversations, not designed to be a game, more of a conversation starter. So I picked a question.
I'm ready.
All right. Yeah. So here's your question. It's like a test, right? This one is called Hello Again. It's common to see a deceased family member or friend in dreams or hallucinations when you're on the brink of death. For my listeners, it's called deathbed visioning. It's pretty common. So, Trish, who would you want as your official greeter? Someone that you would see in your visioning?
Definitely my dad. Yeah, I would want him there with the big open arms and welcoming me.
Nice.
Yeah, that was an easy one.
So, how long has your dad been gone?
Since 2004, he had mesothelioma and diagnosed in Thanksgiving time and gone by June kind of thing.
Wow. So just a short illness.
Yep.
Wow. Were you your dad's caregiver at that time?
No, I was not even living in the same state. So I visited as much as I could and we talked on the phone a lot. And, he's just my guy.
I love it. We should all be so lucky to have somebody like that when you think of your visioning and whatever transition you make into the next world, that we should all have somebody that close to see.
Right.
I like that.
He was a police officer, and I have a picture of him coming in the back door in his uniform with the parka because it was Minnesota, but with his arms just wide open and this big smile on his face. And it's one of my favorite pictures of him. So it would be like that, I think.
So does that sort of personify his relationship with you? You would come home and there would be a big hug.
Yeah.
Nice. That's a perfect card for you. I'm glad I used that one. Well, we are going to be talking about all things caregiving and end of life because this is totally your area. And we've got your book we're going to be talking about as well that you co-wrote with Jan Booth. But we're going to start out with the family caregiver thing because that's a lot of the support that you're providing as an end-of-life doula in your work. And what we know is that family caregivers, a lot of times, they are overwhelmed. Financially, emotionally, physically, mentally, you name it, right? They're drinking from the fire hose. What are some of the caregiving challenges that you are seeing the most often in your work?
Well, one I'm seeing right now is a couple where the illness is progressing way faster than either one of them expected. They thought they had more time to get care in place. They're lucky they have enough money for care in the home. But they're finding it's difficult to find caregivers that are willing to help at night. And so that's been an issue. They're having the hospice decision come upon them quickly. And the level of care can be way more than the spouse or the primary caregiver can handle. So with this situation, the spouse was able to handle it in the beginning and put off seeking care partners until it now has become more of a crisis for them. I see that a lot where caregivers put off asking for help in the early stages. They're like, well, I can handle this. I can do one more thing.
Yeah, it seems doable for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thinking that it might be a benefit, but I don't know what I would ask for. And they get themselves really worn out. So they hesitate.
Do you think that we're not great as caregivers, and I say we because Right. At some point, almost all of us are caregivers. Do you think we're not great at estimating the time thing? Because how much time do we have? Everybody's always asking that question, and it's really hard to answer that.
Yeah, you're meaning like the time the person has left in their life?
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically,
yeah.
how much longer am I going to have to do this? And
Yep.
how much longer do you think this person's going to be able to walk or feed themselves? Yeah, time is always a big thing. Do you think we're either not very good at estimating those times, or are we in a little bit of denial about how fast it's going to move?
Probably both things. And I don't know that the medical system's that great at estimating it either.
No.
There's so many individualities about all of it, where one person with the same disease can be a couple years and another's very short time.
Yeah. I know that it's frustrating for caregivers and families to hear that answer. Well, everybody's a little bit different. Nobody wants to hear that, but it's true. It is very different from person to person.
Absolutely. I worked for a surgeon for a while, and I loved his answer to people because he would say, I can tell you what's going to happen to 1,000 people, but I can't tell you what's going to happen for you.
Oh, that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Well, I think, it used to be that they could tell you, or they wanted to tell you within a couple of months what life expectancy was. But what I'm finding now is that physicians are getting away from doing that it is much less predictable, and maybe they're a little more honest about the fact that it's not always very predictable.
That, and I think they tend to overestimate often, and then that can take the family and caregivers by surprise when things happen quicker. I mean, of course, we know more the further along the person is.
Right.
But certainly at the beginning of a serious illness, it's hard to say.
Yeah, it's hard to look at the progression. And I'm like you, I think that as a hospice nurse, what I had found is that the closer the person gets towards death, where it moves from months to weeks and then to days and then to hours, it's much easier to see from day to day how the changes are happening. And
right.
Yeah. It's the time question is always a big deal for caregivers, though. Yeah.
And I think that loose rule of thumb of, if you're seeing changes week to week, maybe you're looking at weeks. If you're seeing changes day to day, might be looking at days, that sort of thing, to give people a gauge of some sort.
Yeah, I like that. So if you're seeing changes week to week, you're looking at weeks. If you see changes on a day-to-day basis, you're probably looking at days.
Yeah, it's a loose way to look at it, but it does give some framework for people.
Right.
And with the couple I was talking about earlier, seeing that, oh my gosh, this is happening in a month, these changes. And so what does that mean going forward?
Yeah. And I can imagine there's a lot of anxiety and, of course, the anticipatory grief when you have a realization that last week mom was able to put a complete sentence together and this week she's not.
Right.
That realization, that's frightening and it's sad. Yeah.
And that feeling of what's going to happen next, what skill might be leaving next. Yeah. Am I still going to be able to help this person get to bed at night? Do I need more care now?
Yeah. What am I not going to be able to handle? So what extra help am I going to need?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what kind of help do you see or what kind of support do you see that caregivers need, but they're rarely willing to ask for it?
Well, I think people are not asking for those little things that can start off a caregiving relationship with somebody. So to say to their community people, hey, can somebody go get this prescription? Can somebody come to the doctor with us? And start to build that community of care where it's not, oh my God, all of a sudden, can you spend the night and help me?
Yeah, not something huge.
Right,
Yeah.
right. could you take our dog for a while because we're not able to cope anymore?
Right. But I think that those little things are super important and way more helpful than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
Caregivers and the helpers alike. I think you don't realize how much it eases to have somebody to do those small things. Take my dog for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love a model called Share the Care. And that's making a list of everybody who might help you with tasks, and then thinking about concentric circles where the person who's needing care and their primary caregiver are in that center circle. And then there's another layer of people who are willing to be there a lot, willing to maybe do some direct care, more hands-on, that sort of thing. And another layer of support beyond that supports those people with errands, different tasks around the household, things like that. And yet another layer of people who I can once in a while do something, but I can't commit to all the time.
Right.
You could call them and say, hey, so-and-so is sick. Can you go pick up the prescription today?
I like that.
It's a wonderful model. Yeah.
It gives you those extra layers of help.
Right. My meditation group has started a Share the Care model. When we started it, nobody was really sick. So we were just taking each other to colonoscopy appointments and cataract surgeries and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're all around that same age of those things happening. But now one of our members is pretty ill. She has a debilitating progressive neurological disorder. We started out really small, offering some respite, being around, offering to do some household things. And now more and more, we're taking up the slack so that the primary caregiver isn't completely overburdened.
So you moved from that outside, that exterior, just every once in a while helping, to the next level of helping where it's more frequent and it's moving inward.
Right, right. And they're able to hire some additional care when needed. So if the caregiving group is small, that's always an option.
Yeah.
Too.
So many people have heard of hospice care, right? It's been around for quite a while, but not a whole lot of people have heard of an end-of-life or a death doula, and they don't understand the role of an end-of-life doula, although really, in reality, doula work is ancient.
Mm-hmm.
Ancient, it is. It's going back to how women helped each other give birth and die in communities for centuries. How would you explain the work of an end-of-life doula? Tell me what a doula does.
Yeah, first off, it's a non-medical role. That's an important piece of it. And it's a complement to the healthcare team that is in place. I think the simplest way to explain it is doulas offer support and advocacy. They offer education, and that happens wherever the client is in the trajectory of an illness. And there's a range of services, and some doulas specialize in just one area, which is kind of cool.
Right.
But others go through this whole thing of with the person, from advanced care planning, support in the stages of an illness, educating about services, educating the loved ones in the death process, helping with legacy projects is another thing, sitting vigil during active dying, or supporting the family and friends that may be doing that work, and then advocating for after-death care. And some doulas will even take on some after-death bereavement for family and other loved ones. So it's a whole cycle of that care that supports the person and their people.
And it's not in place of anything else.
No, it's not. We're not taking the place of hospice or chaplaincy, any of that.
Right. It's in addition to.
Yeah. And I think a good doula knows when something's outside of her scope of practice and calls in the professionals.
So let's say that for every single person who works as part of an end-of-life team, right? We do have a tendency to say, stay in your own lane, right? Know where your skills are and know when you need to draw somebody else in. But I think that's super important for any member who's of the hospice team, who's an end-of-life worker, who knows a client has a doula. If you have a patient in a family that has a doula, there's no shame in saying, I think you could use the extra time with somebody here to support you. Because the practicalities of a hospice team is we are not there 24/7. We do not have the time flexibility that a doula often has. And so I think there's no shame and there's a lot to gain from saying you should give your end-of-life doula, give your doula a call and have her or him or her come and spend some time with you. There's a need here.
Right, and vice versa, that the doula can say, we need to ask the hospice nurse about this. This is outside of my scope of practice, but I'm seeing that there's maybe some increase in pain from what I can tell. Please give your hospice nurse a call.
Well, so Trish, you are a hospice nurse, correct?
Yes, I am.
And you're a death doula as well. Where do those things overlap for you? When you're working as a doula, you are not using your nursing license, are you?
I feel like I am, in the sense that once a nurse, always a nurse. And that's part of my being, part of my background, part of the knowledge. I'm not going to not talk about something that I know as a nurse, but I'm very clear with my clients to say I am a nurse and a doula.
Right.
And if you want my nursing services, that's one level of care. As a doula, however, I'm going to really look at supporting you in the framework of your medical care. And I'm not going to be doing that. So it can get tricky sometimes.
Yeah.
I try to be as clear as possible.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with somebody who's, let's say, has a chaplaincy degree or a massage therapy degree, that they can use those skills. They just have to be clear. I am also a spiritual leader. I am also a massage therapist. I'm also a mental health professional, whatever those things are. But that the doula doesn't say, I can give a massage unless she's really a massage therapist.
True. Yeah, I think it's important for whichever discipline it is, to understand where their legal and licensed and regulatory boundaries are, according to the code of ethics. Yeah, I think that's a good point. So when a family needs to consider having a doula to come in, when there's some increased need, what signs would you say to look for that would indicate, yeah, this is a good time?
To bring in extra help, you mean?
Yeah, to bring in a doula as an extra layer of support.
Yeah. I think part of it is when the primary caregiver is being overwhelmed, when things are falling through the cracks a bit.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm like, bring one in as soon as you can. I have several clients where I've worked with them on their advanced care planning, and they're healthy. So we have this long pause in our relationship. And then some of them will have a diagnosis or become ill, and then they'll touch back with me. So there's that aspect as well.
What's your favorite part of being a doula?
I really embrace the planning beyond those advanced directives.
Like what?
Yeah, like people having a comfort care directive, really looking at the specifics of things that make them feel comfortable. So one of the examples I give is, if you hate flannel sheets, but you don't tell me you hate flannel sheets, I might put flannel sheets on your bed.
Right. It's the little bitty things.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you maybe can't tell me anymore that you hate that. Another one is those lilies that are really super fragrant give a lot of people a headache. If that happens to you, I need to know that, because they're one of my favorite flowers, maybe. That kind of specificity is really important. And I love exploring that with people and giving them those kind of prompts of like, well, would you want your pet on the bed with you? Do you want me to make sure your hearing aids are in? Do you want me to pluck your chin hairs?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
and yes. I speak for every woman in my age group. The answer to that is yes.
Yep, it's on my list.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Well, and being able to talk about those things. And it does, it gets a laugh. It gets people a little bit uplifted to say, oh, I never thought of that. And yes, of course, I want that done.
Well, but those are very intimate, small details. And that's the kind of stuff that a doula would have time and take time to sit and talk with you about. The
Yep.
specifics of comfort care that maybe your hospice team would not have time to sit and ask or sit
Right.
and discuss. Because the first things we are going to talk about is, do you have a medical power of attorney, a healthcare proxy? Do you have an advance directive in place for your medical care, a MULST, a PULST, a do
Right.
not resuscitate order? And I get the purpose of all of it, but to have a more intimate conversation about some of the smaller things, I love that idea. I love that idea.
Those end-of-life papers are really important. You have to have them. But
Yeah.
there's so much more to the conversation. Another thing is to have a spiritual advance directive.
Yes.
So what do you want in terms of sacred readings or hymns? Or do you have a spiritual teacher that you want to be notified when you're dying? Or do you want none of those things?
Right.
Is that something that is not important to you at all?
Or is it important to you that your family have that type of support, but you do not want it for yourself?
Great idea. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because even within family units, there can be different spiritual needs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we forget about the spiritual directives. I have a tendency to leave them out when I start making a list of the different things that go into advanced care planning. But a spiritual directive is really important.
I find that it is. And it's a really deep conversation to have with people. More than ticking that box of what religion are you
Oh, yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah, it deserves more time than a checklist would give.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Another directive is your after-death care directive. What are your thoughts about the disposition of your body? And beyond that, the details of a burial or a cremation, a donation of your body. And then how do you want ceremony, ritual?
Or do you prefer none?
Exactly.
I am seeing a trend in that direction of people saying, I don't want a funeral, I don't want a memorial service. Maybe you could have a gathering, or maybe I've seen patients say, I don't want anything. It's just keep things very simply and go about your lives afterwards.
And then to explore that too, to say, well, what about if that's important to your family?
Yeah.
If that's important to your family, are there things that would make a difference to you? Would you want that to have a religious overtone? Would you want to have that more of a celebration of life kind of ideal?
Yeah, I think it is very individualized. Very individualized. I love that doulas can be so intentional and get so deep into these conversations. Keep listening after the break to hear more helpful caregiving tips from Trish.
This episode is being sponsored by Halo Care. Caring for a loved one at home can be both rewarding and overwhelming. At Halo Care, we're here to help you find the balance, combining technology and heartfelt support so aging at home feels safer, easier, and more connected. Our 24/7 Care Hub team is always just a call away, keeping families informed and seniors supported around the clock. From personal care and home safety to meaningful social connection, Halo Care gives you peace of mind knowing someone's always there. Whether you're supporting an aging parent or planning for your own independence, Halo Care empowers you to live confidently at home, surrounded by care that's compassionate, human, and truly personalized. Learn more at halocaregroup.com/USA or check the show notes for the link. Halo Care, where technology meets compassion and home feels like home. This episode is sponsored by Hospice Navigation Services.
If you or someone you care about is dealing with a life-limiting illness, you need a guide. Hospice Navigation Services is here to help you get the best end-of-life care possible. We understand the importance of personalized, experienced support. Hospice navigators provide one-on-one support over the phone or through video calls to guide you every step of the way. They'll answer your questions, explain what hospice care looks like, and give you the tools to feel confident in your decisions. Whether you're planning ahead or you have an urgent need, Hospice Navigation Services helps you and your family understand your options for end-of-life care. A hospice navigation session is a great way to troubleshoot your current hospice care and get answers to your questions. You don't have to go through this alone. You deserve compassionate support and guidance for your end-of-life experience. Hospice Navigation Services can be your guide. To book your hospice navigation session and receive your free guide to end-of-life care, visit our website at hospicenavigation.com. It's your journey. Hospice Navigation Services can be your guide. So you guys are doing, as doulas, a lot of work with families, right? With family caregivers. And we know that caregiving towards the end of life, we've already talked about all these things that can be overwhelming and maybe take them by surprise in the whole thing, can create a lot of tension in the family, especially when they have different beliefs about how things should be handled, or maybe those advanced care plan conversations didn't happen. And so there's conflict over how to provide the comfort care that the person would have preferred. How do you help families navigate conflict like that while still staying centered on the wishes of their person that's dying?
Well, first off, we have to know what those wishes are. So it harkens back to having those conversations. And if we don't have them and we don't know, that's an absolute setup for conflict.
For sure.
Yep. And so if it's not spoken, to be able to bring that to light, having the dying person make a video is a great idea so that family members can see them saying, this is what I want. This is what I don't want. And it's a lot more powerful than the written word, but the written word can help with that as well. Making sure that the dying person has a healthcare agent or proxy, and that that person is somebody who really will be strong in standing up for the person's wishes, and that that's a legal paper. And to not set ourselves as doulas up as experts in any way, but to point out to families, comfort care, for example, means different things to different people. The pain level that a person is wanting to tolerate or willing to tolerate is different for everybody. And that can change as the illness changes, as things worsen perhaps. So that can be a big one too, where, one family member might say, I don't want daddy to have any pain medicine at all.
Right.
Where one is like, he twitched, he needs morphine.
Yeah. Is he uncomfortable? Yeah.
Right. And so to have had that conversation ahead of time, where the person that's dying, the person in the deathbed has said, in general, I can tolerate a lot of pain, or I don't want any pain medicine, or I want to be knocked out as much as possible, all that range of things, and that they've had that conversation with the family, with the people who are going to be with them at that time.
Well, and don't you think those conversations remain ongoing, even though you get the directives written or the video made, as the person transitions and becomes involved in the actively dying part of things, the needs change. even then. And that's a great positioning for the doula to help guide that family once the person is no longer able to communicate. You're listening to what the body is saying at that point.
Agreed.
But that's a great place for a doula to be there to support.
Right. And to say, we had these conversations, you had these conversations that outlined this person's values and what was important to them. And that's helpful in those gray areas where things change.
Yeah. Yeah. To remind them this is still the common goal. Mm-hmm. Even though you may not agree on how to get to it, this is still what your person asked you to do.
Right. Because there are a lot of gray areas, and you're absolutely right that things change as time goes on. Yeah. And sometimes values come into conflict, the person's personal values. So they might have a high value on autonomy, but also want to stay safe. That's an example of where those two things can come to a convergence, and one has to take priority over the other.
Right. I think pain meds are a big sticky point for situations like that as well. We want mom to be comfortable and not struggle to breathe or have pain, but we also want her to be able to talk with us and to be able to interact with us and see what's going, interact and see the family. So where do you balance that?
Yeah. And as hospice nurses, it can be difficult to titrate that on a regular basis.
Right. As frequently as it might need to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. And it's hard to be patient, I think, because some of those medication adjustments, you have to give it a couple of days to happen, depending on what you're using.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a juggling act. Yeah. And having a doula there to run a little interference because
right.
because grief is a motivator for a lot of those feelings and a lot of the emotions that get expressed. So having an objective person who is skilled, non-medical, but skilled and very informed about the dying process and all of this that's happening, that's a huge asset to a family to reduce the conflict. I think conflict is sort of built in to all of this. If you've got two people, they are going to handle the same loss differently.
Mm-hmm. I think, too, a doula can hold up a mirror of, as you're saying, objectively, here's what I see. Do you see this too? And just point out, mom is really restless right now. Are you seeing that? She was a lot quieter yesterday, or vice versa. So that can be an asset in having a doula there, knowing the family, knowing the client really well.
I like that, what you're saying, and I hope that end-of-life workers that are listening to this hear that. But holding a mirror up and saying, looks like mom is this and this, do you see it too?
Mm-hmm. Lots of people have never seen a dying person in their adult life. Their parent might be the first time that they've had this experience, and people are not adept. We don't teach that any place right now of what to look for, what the natural process might be. And a doula has that experience.
Yeah. Well, and it used to be centuries ago that's how we took care of our dying, our elderly and our dying. They were kept in the community, multi-generational homes, and the women of the families were the ones that provided the care. That's where sort of the role of a doula originates. But culturally, we've definitely grown away from those things. Western culture has.
Yeah, we've really medicalized a natural process.
Right. I'd like to think of it as that we are currently unlearning all these things, right? Because we had all this great treatment and all these interventions, and what we're finding is they work at certain points, and then they don't. So we're not intervening, we're interfering.
Mm-hmm.
And those are two different things.
Right. Everybody knows that term DNR, do not resuscitate. And I like to think about allow natural death, AND.
Yeah.
When a person is ready, or they're aged and life is done, things are starting to go wrong, allowing a natural death, because we can keep the body alive
Sure.
for a long time.
Yeah.
But is that what people want? And if they do, great, let's do that. But if not, let's allow natural death and know what that looks like and be able to be present for it and hold space for it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the difference between quality and quantity of life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I want to ask you, after you've been doing this work, you've been walking alongside and companioning people who are at end of life and their caregivers, what have you learned about how caregiving changes a person?
Yeah, it's different for everybody. I think a lot of people discover resources and strengths that they didn't know they had, where they have gone through this, and they even sometimes come into a better relationship with the person they're caring for as family members. And others reach the limit of their abilities and they get stressed, they get burned out, they have compassion fatigue. So it's different for everybody going in, and being prepared for the hard work that it is to do caregiving, having that support, as much support as you can, having a chance to have some respite time, learning those things. And I think important to not have regrets after the fact. So to be able to say, I did the best I could, to have some pride and satisfaction in knowing that you did caregiving well is an important thing, especially if caregiving takes place over many years or is really intense. And both of those things can happen.
You know, when you think about the trajectory of some of the neurological diseases like Alzheimer's, dementias, things like that, a lot of those disease trajectories are years old, years long. And yet the intensity of the experience, especially towards the end, is still just as intense as if a person were to have a major stroke and live for a week and die after that. The caregiving experience and the grief experience really are the same. You don't get to write it off just because it took a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it too, that, you know, you see so many people that even when we're expecting the death, when it happens, there's that intake of breath and, oh my gosh, it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah. And things shift.
It's life, yeah, it's identity changing for a caregiver. Absolutely. Trish, in your doula work, do you do the aftercare? Do you do grief support and bereavement support as a doula?
I have done that at times, and I'm real careful there because I'm not a therapist. And what I'll do is check in with people at different points after the death. How are you doing? Do you need any support? Can I give you any resources or referrals?
Right.
So that's the way I approach it. And certainly lots of listening, especially in the early days after a death when people seem to need to review it and talk about it. I'm happy to sit and listen.
It's like a debriefing that needs to happen, an emotional debriefing.
Great word for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you have written a new book along with your co-author, Jan Booth, who's also a hospice nurse. It's called Dying Matters, 8 Conversations That Can Change Your Life. I love it that there are only 8, I got to tell you, because, listen, caregiving and end of life, that crap is overwhelming. So the fact that there are only 8 conversations, I think that's great. But who is the book for?
Well, I say that it's good for everybody. It's a good guide. Every one of us is going to die or be a caregiver of some sort at some time. Really, we did try to keep it rather simple for people so it was digestible.
Right.
And I hope that people read it and explore the discussion questions with other people before there's a healthcare crisis in their life.
Right. Yeah.
So we wanted it to be readable, relatable, a book with resources that people could go back to, and a book that would help people start conversations with the people in their lives. So we wrote a notes and beyond section to help with some of the deeper dives, because with Jan and I's experience and background and knowledge, the book could have been, 600 pages and no one would read it.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Especially the poor caregivers of the world. Oh my goodness.
And we would have never finished writing because we keep coming up with, oh, did you read this article? Did you listen to this podcast? Have you seen this film?
Well, and every client that you go to, every family that you work with, you learn something new. It's a constant encountering new situations and learning what was needed. Yeah. It's definitely a lot of on-the-job learning. So there's a guide that's included in the book. Tell me about that guide.
We put a discussion guide that is a compilation of all of the questions, reflection questions that we ask throughout the book. And we laid out how someone in a community, faith community or book club or any other kind of community group could lead a discussion about these topics and learn from one another, explore with one another as things come up. And that was a big part of our point in writing it, was that people could take this information and run with it. It's sort of like a death cafe idea,
right?
But more pointed to topics.
Yeah, more focused. Yeah, so you recommend just a small group within your faith community, so your Sunday school class or a book club, even a workplace group, a small group there, meeting weekly or monthly until you cover all of the 8 chapters. So you could do it as slowly as you needed to in small bites, which is really kind of how people's lives are run these days, just however best it works. And then there are questions to explore for each section. It's really a good discussion guide. I love that. And the book itself, beautiful cover, by the way, not very long and very digestible, as you said, very digestible, which is a fantastic characteristic to have when you're having to consider caregiving. And hopefully they are conversations that you have ahead of time, ahead of the crisis, which is the best time to do it. So I want to ask you one last question, Trish, before we talk about where to find the book. As a hospice nurse and a doula, you have sat with people in some of their most vulnerable moments, some of their most intimate moments. What have you learned about yourself?
I've learned that I too need other people. I'm very individualistic, but I need other death care workers. I've learned to ask for support when I need it. I'm better at that than I used to be. And I'm doing a lot better job of self-care. And it's the kind of things more than a bubble bath and a candle kind of stuff, like really taking care of my body and my mind and my spirit, sorts of things. So I'm better at this than I was 20 years ago.
We should all be able to say that. And I will tell you, those lessons about self-care are hard learned, because most people don't start out from the very beginning with a self-awareness of how to practice self-care in sustainable, healthy ways so that they can do this work for as long as they want to do it, right? Because a lot of us want to dedicate our careers to this, but it's not sustainable without self-care. And unfortunately, the way you learn that you need self-care a lot of the time is you burn yourself out. Yeah, so many of us have done that. Trish, where can readers find you and connect with the book, Dying Matters, 8 Conversations That Can Change Your Life?
So the book can be found on Amazon, and there are also a few independent booksellers. The best way to get information is to visit the website deathdoulas.com, deathdoulas.com. And we have a page there about the book, and that also gives ordering information as well. And you can reach out to either myself or Jan at info@deathdoulas.com. And one of us will see that and respond
Perfect.
with questions. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I'll have a link to the website and all your information in the show notes so listeners can connect with you easily. Trish, thank you so much for spending time with me today. The book is beautiful, and I hope people really have connected with it. That's great.
Thank you so much, Helen. This was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Heart of Hospice podcast. Check out our sponsor in the show notes, and please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. We would appreciate it if you would share this episode with your friends and family and anyone who needs to know more about hospice. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, no matter who you are or where you are in your hospice journey, you are the heart of hospice.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time.